Hey everyone, Officer Shane Spielman here from Anaheim Police Department's Ask a Motor Cop. We got a special video today. Today we're here to talk about something that's happening regularly in our city. And before we get into it,
Too regularly.
But before we get into it, I'd like to introduce my partner in crime here, no pun intended, Sergeant Rick Boyer, and Deputy District Attorney Brian Orue. Thank you for being here with us today. So let's jump right in it. Rick, what is the problem that we're having where we asked Brian to come in today to talk about?
Well, we've done other Ask Motor Cops before where we've talked about street racing and some of the problems that we're getting in a lot of our local parking lots and things like that, right?
Intersections.
And so what we've done now is we have kind of this expansion of the problem now where the people that are involved with it are becoming even more emboldened.
Right.
And so we're getting them in busier intersections that are far more populated, and they're spending more time there. And I think, maybe a big part of it could be that we're having less people on the roadway.
Yeah.
And so because of that, we have these intersections that are more open and not as packed with traffic, causing them to go in there and having more time to spend.
Yeah. It's time and space.
So what you're getting is these speed contests, drifting, whatever you want to call it, whatever name you want to put with it, where they're taking over an intersection and they have large numbers of people and vehicles. And just a lot of different things are occurring, from damage to the intersection. There's a lot of different stuff on. I mean, that's kind of why I wanted DDA Orue to come in today. And I know that's a big concern that you had, was that we wanted to kind of, pick his brain. He's kind of the person who has the background expertise. We have that on the street expertise. He has that background expertise. And so that was kind of the stuff that I wanted to discuss with him and just kind of see what his perspective is. So like, for an example, if we have a large group of people taking over an intersection, and inside that intersection, there's vehicles that are, spinning out, they're out of control, the speed is excessive. We may have people videoing, we may have people running out and trying to dodge the cars. I mean, a lot of those different things happen. I mean, what kind of crimes and what kind of penalties are they looking at with that?
Well, very, very good question. Obviously, it's a big issue that we're having recently, not just in great city of Anaheim, but unfortunately throughout Orange County. What's important to note is that a lot of people think that if you're not driving the car or doing the donuts or, screeching your tires, etc., that you're not going to be held responsible. But the reality is that under the code, you can be held responsible if you're also just there, videoing, blocking off the intersection, being somebody who's there to kind of contribute to everything that seems really, really cool at the time, isn't so cool when you're facing possible misdemeanor charges, 90 days to 6 months in jail, $500 to a couple $1,000s in fines. God forbid your vehicle gets impounded for up to 30 days. These are huge things that you may not consider when you see Instagram or see a Facebook post and you think, hey, I want to go out and watch this. Those are some of the things that you really need to consider.
And just with what you're bringing up right there, I mean, you're bringing up the most generic low level of it.
Yes.
I mean, we've seen so many of these things go so much worse. What we can have happen is, hypothetically now, as I'm spinning out of control inside this intersection, if somebody walks out and they try to get as close as they can to video it as the car goes by or something like that, and say I'm struck, and now I'm either the driver or I'm the person that's trying to video, and I'm struck. And so from any level of injury, if I'm just basically injured, then what would I be looking at?
What do we got?
No, that's when things get a little more serious. So even at the most basic level, somebody's injured, okay? Not the driver, but any other party that may be watching, filming, you want to get up and close and get that great shot.
They love to get that.
Or you're hanging off the side of the car trying to film and you fall off. I mean, there's a million different permutations.
Sure.
But the lowest level you get injured, that is now a wobbler, which could be a misdemeanor or a felony. So we talked about some of the misdemeanor penalties earlier, but when this gets into felony land, when things get really serious, because the important thing to note is that just like Anaheim PD is committed to the safety of its residents, Todd Spitzer, the District Attorney of Orange County, is committed to prosecuting these cases to the full extent of the law. And when we get into felony land, we're talking about minimum 16 months in county jail, 2 years in county jail, or up to 3 years of county jail with up to $10,000 in fines.
And if I'm not mistaken, the amount of injury to get to that felony charge is not that extensive, correct? I mean, it's something that would happen almost in any traffic collision, what we deal with every day. I mean, it's in the most basic of traffic collisions. People experience these injuries, correct?
You're absolutely right. Loss of consciousness, concussion, a slight bone fracture, all the way up to possible brain injury or paralysis. I mean, it runs the gamut. So if you are injuring someone or someone is injured during one of these exhibitions of speed or takeovers, you're looking at serious ramifications.
Right, and you know that's the problem that we experience when we get there, because we've tried to take many different approaches in law enforcement, from trying to have discussions. We realize that that folks buy these cars and they want to use them for racing, and they want to use them for all the things that they saw on TV that drew them to that car in the first place. And the dilemma for us is that we try to have those open conversations with them to see, like, where's your mindset at, and are you actually seeing all the dangers of what can occur? And many times they just don't. They just don't get how quickly something that seems kind of just, this isn't that big of a deal. I'm doing a couple burnouts inside the street, to actually severely injuring somebody. The other thing that we experience quite a bit is, and this is unfortunate, but it happens all the time, is many people are aware of the concerns with alcohol, and those bring on. But many people that we find, with it being so new, the legalization of marijuana, that they don't truly understand how much that is impairing their driving, or that it's even illegal. There's a perspective out there that believes that because it's now legal in the state, that it's legal to drive while you're under the influence of that. And if I'm not mistaken, that's going to make those ramifications from these type of driving and exhibitions even worse, correct?
You're absolutely right. So I guess the best way to look at this is that now we have legalized marijuana, right? Proposition 64, the voters passed it. Everybody drives by a dispensary or sees an ad for marijuana use on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
Look, zero judgment. The reality is that when you get behind the wheel and you start driving a motor vehicle, your inhibitions are reduced, your risk-taking increases, and just like with the use of alcohol, you are going to start doing things that you may not do when you are under the influence of those substances. And what's truly scary is that people are under the impression that if they just smoke a little bit of marijuana, or dab, or utilize any type of synthetic marijuana, cannabis, etc., and maybe drink a little bit of alcohol, just one or two beers, I'm well under the legal limit. Actually, that synergistic effect between the low levels of alcohol and marijuana actually have almost cause a multiplier, or a synergistic effect that causes your impairment level to raise exponentially. So we were talking about burnouts, exhibition of speed, taking over. We talked about misdemeanors, felonies. Now, if you start adding alcohol, and you are now talking about getting a DUI, or driving under the influence, and getting a DUI conviction, which can start at very low level misdemeanor where you may not be looking at jail time.
Right.
But if an injury occurs, you are then looking at a serious felony and possibly a great bodily injury charge, which now takes the misdemeanor felony we were talking about, could, based on certain injuries, up to what's called a violent strike, or a strike felony, which would stay on your record unless the law changes, possibly for the rest of your life, affect your ability to get a job, certain employment, losing your license. Things kind of spiral out of control when you start adding intoxicating substances to the mix.
Yeah, it's a terrible thing, but we've had this happen recently, where unfortunately these type of activities result in somebody actually being killed. Whether it's the car going out of control and then the driver being fatally injured, or somebody who's observing the event, or whatever you want to call what they're doing, and then they're struck and fatally injured. And so that, again, when you're talking about supersizing these things and compounding problems, that gets to a level that is very hard to recover from. And unfortunately, what I think a lot of them don't realize is that they look at themselves as generally good people, but they just took a life.
Yeah. You're essentially talking about everyone's greatest or biggest nightmare, right?
Right.
nobody expects to go out and take somebody's life. Nobody expects that this is even within the realm of possibility. But it's not within the realm of possibility until it actually happens. And the sad reality is that in Orange County, this has been happening at too rapid a clip over the last few months, and that's why Anaheim PD joined the task force that was implemented by DA Todd Spitzer, along with a lot of other great departments within the county, to combat this issue. And what we've seen over the last couple months is, with speed contests, with exhibitions of speed, people are being killed, people are dying, and that takes us to yet another level that we're adding to our discussion, which is a person can be charged with vehicular manslaughter, which that triad or those penalties get up into going to prison for possibly up to 10 years or more, depending upon how many people are actually hurt.
Right.
And if it's not vehicular manslaughter, if somebody has a prior DUI and they were possibly intoxicated and killed someone, or maybe there was such a disregard for human life when they took these actions, they could be charged with murder. And at a minimum, a second-degree murder charge, implied malice murder, is a 15-year to life charge in California.
As a prosecutor, do you look at the use of, the cell phones are an intimate part of this. They're a huge part of everything they do, from the person who's driving to the person who may be a passenger in the car to the person who may be out observing. Does the distraction of that cell phone also play another level?
Great question. So obviously it's an intricate part in this whole, I don't want to call it a phase, because this has been going on way too long, right?
No, but it's definitely something that is used to draw attention to yourself.
It's a promotional tool, right?
Sure.
Not just for the people who are observing, but also quite possibly for the people that are driving and doing so. As a bystander who may be a part of this and trying to promote it, within, the black letter law of the code, you could be found, under certain circumstances, you could be found to be aiding and abetting in the exhibition of speed. You're promoting the actions. If you're the actual driver, because it's not outside the realm of possibility, you're driving, doing donuts, and you're filming yourself or sending a Snapchat or a Instagram video or a TikTok video or whatever it may be, that is going to go into the analysis, the totality of the circumstances, to determine whether you were grossly negligent, whether you were just ordinarily negligent, or whether you showed a complete disregard for human life when you were taking those actions. So it is very much within the analysis taken when we're utilizing our discretion in charging and filing cases.
Right. So, we joke, right? We put these videos out and we try, everybody thinks we try to scare everybody, right? We're trying to scare them. So it's very rare that we have a guest like you that has that kind of information available. So I don't mean to put you on the spot, but what are we really looking at? Statistically, is it tangible? Is there really an increase in this? Or is everybody just seeing this stuff on social media, and because they're exposed to it now, they think that it's a much, like, wow, this is something that's out there? Or is there statistical information that that shows that we're not crazy here, that we're seeing something that's out there every day and more dangerous every day?
I'll tell you this, you're not crazy, okay? So feel better about that. I told you. But the reality is that we're in the process of digesting all these numbers and digesting all these statistics. So I can't give you, we're seeing a 300% increase over the last 3 months.
Sure.
But the reality is that we are seeing an increase, okay? Taking COVID into consideration, taking the amount of times that we're seeing this, the numbers are piling up. So we're still in the analysis phase. We're still trying to develop numbers. But what we can tell you is that we've seen a correlation between the use of intoxicating substances with these incidents. So just from a general standpoint, we've seen an increase, 40% increase in felony filings as it relates to DUI and DUID. So it's not just from an alcohol base, but from prescription drugs. Marijuana is huge. Methamphetamine, narcotic analgesics such as heroin, etc. Like, we're seeing a huge increase. We're seeing a 25% increase in misdemeanor filings for both DUI and DUID. So as far as those are the hard numbers I have for you today.
And you brought up the virus.
Right.
Those are numbers that are rising while we have far less people out on the roadway. I mean, everybody's seen that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The level of traffic and the times when any town that you live in Orange County pretty much goes to sleep at night with the virus is much earlier and much less traffic, and yet we're still seeing those increases. I can't believe that. That's why that explains why it's become such a problem.
No, it's really, really scary. And the reality is I think you guys would echo this or agree with me. We don't want to get calls out for fatalities. We don't want to get calls out for people getting injured. We don't want to get calls out for these types of cases. We'd like people to be safe, use good judgment. There's a lot to be thankful for and grateful for, and we should have to get to this level where we're putting ourselves at risk and the community at risk, just to go out and get behind the wheel.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to come out. Sergeant Atkinson, that you know very well, that handles these fatals for us for Anaheim, is old.
And how old? He doesn't sound that old over the phone.
He's very old. He's over 50, and I'm pretty sure he dyes his hair to get that younger look. And so the big concern for us is that we don't know if he should be driving at night.
It's true.
We've discussed that.
It's true.
So, while we're trying to keep these numbers down, I mean, that is a big concern, and so that's another thing. We're saving yet another person from potentially getting
We have to look out for his safety
the elderly.
as well.
We all want to
have
protect
to
the
care
ones
for
we
the
love.
elderly. Sure.
It's really important to all of us.
Sure. Okay.
We can all
I would. We love him.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure, we love him.
Absolutely. And that's why we want to protect him.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. So, anything else you guys want to add to it?
No, thank you very much.
Pretty much wraps it up. What was that?
Nothing. I just, it never ceases to amaze me when we get exposed to this stuff all the time, and then when we have these discussions like this, you become even more surprised with what the magnitude of the problem is.
Yeah.
And so I can't thank you enough for coming out though and
Yes,
making the videos and stuff. We have a nice program where we're able to do this, and I think a lot of people, it brings at least light to a problem if they're not aware of it. And our hope is that some of the people involved with it might hear from someone else that doesn't traditionally watch our programs and learn something from it, or just realize that there's far more danger to it than they expect. And I think that's what you really shed some light on.
Yeah, and
there are ramifications for the actions.
there are, and it's an honor to be here. And I thank you very much for your time. And I hope that we can just, get something positive out of this.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
hopefully, somebody will think twice before they get behind the wheel, whether it's to do this or to drink and drive.
Absolutely.
All right, take it away. You know
All
your
right.
spiel.
Well, thank you for everybody that watched this video. And those of you that contact the police department about these speed contests and these incidents, whether it be out in the street or in parking lots, we hear you, we take them very seriously, and we do our best to combat them and to prevent them, and to also arrest people and have deputy district attorneys prosecute those cases. So as always, thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and we'll have another one for you as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thanks again.